Rookie minicamp for the Kansas City Chiefs is already started, and there's already news who's here and who's not here anymore. We're going to get into it today as this roster takes shape on Locked On Chiefs.
From the land of the free and the home of the Chiefs, this is the Locked On Chiefs podcast.
Welcome back, friends and neighbors. It's Locked On Chiefs, part of the Locked On Network, your team every day for free on every platform available. Make sure you like, sub, hit that bell on YouTube. Get subbed over on the audio platforms as well. I'm Ryan Tracy, the founder of Rogue Analytics and Performance Consulting, The Athletic Matrix, The Draft Guide, NFL33.com. That's all available through RogueAPC.com all year round. I'm doing draft work as well as the draft show over at Locked On NFL. Make that your second listen. Thanks for making us your first. We appreciate it.
Lots to talk about today. Kansas City actually released some players, and we'll get to that here in just a second. And the NFL is actually already starting to sign draft picks. I want to talk about that too. My name is Chris Clark. I'm from Chiefs Corner. You can find my work at KC Chiefs Corner. When we talk about the draft picks, we talk about what their contracts are. If you've checked out Chiefs Corner, you've seen that I've already gone through and I've already added and shown you what those draft picks are going to make, basically for their entire 4-year career in Kansas City. So be sure to go check that out over at Chiefs Corner. Where do you want to start? Do you want to start with the draft picks and that, or do you want to start with the cuts?
I'm going to start with the cuts and what's taking shape out there. And that, by the way, those entries on Chiefs Corner are going to be a great reference here, not just this week, but next year and next year and next year as we roll through everybody's contracts. And some contracts today came to an end. A number of guys, one really familiar name, but a number of guys that were brought in to see what they had. And Gary Jennings, Nakia Griffin-Stewart, Josh Peterson, Doug's kid, a tight end. A number of question marks, of possibilities. And this is what happens on rookie minicamp. If you are already a free agent on this roster and they sign a slew of new UDFAs, a slew of new draft picks, this is the first look that bam, you can't compete in what we just brought in. And unfortunately, that means some guys got to go.
Yeah, and that's exactly what's going on right now. And at this point, I mean, for the most part, the guys they released are going to be guys that are going to be participating in this camp this weekend.
Yeah, I mean, camp rolls on. This is just like the first day. There's going to be more. And getting that second look with so many guys in the roster this time of year, you got to really limit what you can take a look at, how much time you can spend with a given prospect as they rotate through everyone in that position. And so those reps become gold. They become very, very precious to anyone who's not a starter already on this roster. And that's what leads to it. So I think clearly the biggest name is Garrett Dieter. Long time been on this practice squad, sometimes on the active roster. He didn't make it through day one of rookie minicamp. That's a bad sign for him. It's a very good sign for what the Chiefs have in camp for the wide receiver position.
Well, and I think it's also a sign that Kansas City realizes he's not going to be on the roster or practice squad this season. So this is his opportunity to go find a place to go to training camp, because that's his best opportunity to find a job and continue to compete in the NFL is to be on a 90-man roster and go work in training camp and try to make a roster that way. It's not going to happen in Kansas City this year. So that's a good sign for Kansas City going forward. And obviously, Patrick Mahomes is going to miss his best friend. But, I wish Garrett Dieter the best. And I know he's worked his butt off to get where he is. So hopefully he's able to latch on somewhere else.
And this is what being a professional athlete is. I mean, we've talked about it last several camps. He's been on the verge of being gone for 2 seasons now.
Yep.
Because quite frankly, he just didn't have enough to make it before when they were thin behind Tyreek Hill. And now that you've spread out the talent base to 5, 6, maybe 7 deep right now, it just makes it that much harder. So again, for him, not a great day. He's put in some good work. He's even made a couple of plays here, so kudos to him. But for the Chiefs, this is a signal that your depth, at the very least, is getting much better. Guy that you've had on the active roster sometime in the last 2 years is now a cut day one of the offseason. That's a positive sign for this team in 2022.
Yeah, and you're going to be looking at a situation where, you've got Sky Moore coming in as a rookie. You've got Justin Ross coming in as a rookie. Those are 2 guys that could be competing for roster spots. They've got other UDFAs that they brought in as wide receivers that could be competing for a roster spot. So you have a lot of young guys. And don't forget, you still have Cornell Powell there too, who was a 5th round pick last year. So it's going to be interesting to see if he's able to take a step ahead. And I'm not sure if he's eligible in this rookie minicamp or not, because I believe rookie minicamp doesn't have to be just rookies. It can also be first-year players or guys that have been around for 1 year. So he might be able to be there this weekend.
Yeah, I believe it includes second-year players, even third-year players, I think, depending on snap counts.
Fair enough.
Or maybe it's weeks active. Maybe that's what it is. I can't remember the criteria, but yeah.
But Cornell Powell was never active, so he actually doesn't have an accrued season. So he was just on the practice squad. So I can't see a reason why he couldn't be there.
Yeah, exactly. And the fact that he's not in this initial group is a good sign for his development. We've had a lot of speculation about where he is and where he's going. They spent a draft pick on him. So you want to see that develop, if nothing else, into a special teams player. Let's hope that happens. But we won't get a glimpse here until probably later in the weekend is my guess. When we do, we'll have a better idea where everyone stands in this wide receiver group. So, there's things to be done, and sometimes it's special, sometimes it's blingy. You might see some guys with some rare jewelry coming into the facility here the next few days, but if you want to get her something like that, there's one choice, and it is BlueNile.com. That's where you want to go to get the outrageous piece, or like the nice, subtle, everyday kind of thing for a girlfriend, your wife, your mother, your grandmother, whoever it is. If I were you, you might want to butter up the mother-in-law. I'm just saying from experience, it goes a long way. So if you want to get something like that, our listeners get a nice discount right now, $50 off of $500, no matter what. It's a podcast exclusive, and today is the last day. You want to get this done. So use the code Locked On. That's Locked On. Plus, every order ships free and in a nice, discreet package, so you don't give it away. And it's insured. It's a great way to get stress out of your life while getting something special for the people that you love. So check it out at BlueNile.com today. Also, just in case that's not enough, you might want to grab some NHL action or some baseball action. God knows you can put enough bets on baseball that I can't even keep track, but it's all over at BetOnline where the game starts, because they have all the information that you need, all the odds, all the stats, especially for you uber baseball geeks that are like, okay, the draft's over now, I'm going to be all baseball until camp. I get it. That's fine. Way too much stats for even me, but you guys enjoy yourselves. You can make all kinds of props and bets based on all of that over at BetOnline where the game starts.
Now, when you look at what else this is going to mean for Kansas City, and one of the things we talked about, all the players that they've already cut and let go, and what that means for the players that are still on the roster, they still have a bunch of guys that they're bringing in for tryouts as well. And one of those guys is, I believe you said, Frank Clark's brother.
Yeah, and I think that's interesting. Defensive tackle. We'll see what the weekend brings for him. I know everybody's kind of down on Frank Clark. He hasn't had the output that we've wanted the last few seasons. He's had a lot of injuries, but I like the connection. I like when teammates get to go to the same team, like we saw with the Green Bay Packers doing with some Georgia players this year. I like when brothers get on the same roster, because I think that kind of comfort, camaraderie, and competition helps everybody get better. And so I like that idea. I just don't know anything about the kid. I've never seen him play. I can't find any tape on it. I looked last night. So hey, who knows? But I like the concept.
Yeah, and if you like all the brothers playing together, you can go, cheer on the Pittsburgh Steelers. They have 4 sets of brothers on their roster right now.
Right?
It's nuts. So, but you look at what this is going to mean. You have all these tryout players. Kansas City had to go and bring in UDFAs. They had their draft class. Those guys are going to be in this rookie minicamp, and then you have all these tryout players that fill in at the other positions. So lots to look at there, and to see if any of those guys are maybe better than what you have at other positions on the roster, to try to figure out if you want those guys in training camp. So I expect that there's probably going to be 1 or 2 signings, maybe 3. It just depends on the guys that are coming in as tryout players. It's possible they end up on the 90-man roster. Those are the guys that are going to have the hardest time making it to the 53-man roster, just because of all that they have to go through. But they all have an opportunity, so it's something to watch.
Yeah, I mean, and let's see, there were 8 tight ends when they started this process. They've already cut 2. One want to get your impression of anybody that stands out to you. One guy that I'm looking forward to seeing is Matt Bushman, who is an older prospect. He was a rookie last year, was on the practice squad, signed late in the season because he came out. He was like 26 years old because he had done a Mormon mission. And he had gone back to BYU, played with Zach Wilson at the end, but hurt himself late in their season. I believe it was an ACL. I know it was a knee injury. But he's a guy that can do a little bit of everything. He's like a bigger Blake Bell, in my opinion. He's got really soft hands. He's got nice blocking ability. And I had him as kind of like one of those low-down UDFAs that could be sneaky on a roster last time this year, right? But we haven't been able to see him because he was signed so late. So the fact that he's still there and he wasn't one of the early cuts tells me that at least has enough to get going, and he must be practicing. So I'm taking that guy as one to watch.
I want to see what they have in Malik Herring. You have a guy that they brought in and did kind of the Tim Ward thing from the year before, and Tim Ward came in and played really well. And I know a lot of people were upset that the Chiefs didn't keep him. So that's something to watch. You start looking at rookie minicamp. I'm really curious what Justin Ross is going to show. I know we talked about him a lot the other day, but that's still one that is a huge question mark in my opinion, because you don't know. I mean, obviously they think he's healthy enough to play and practice, so we'll see how that works. But is he able to show any of those traits that just made him undefendable in 2019?
Right. Did he not show today?
I don't think the minicamp starts until tomorrow.
Oh,
actually.
Okay. It was just rookie, basically inauguration.
Yeah. So
okay. This is where the cafeteria is. This is where the locker is. Okay, gotcha.
Yeah. So, well, and Justin Ross is a guy that if his talent shows up, he does have the ability to make this 53-man roster.
Oh, yeah. He's one of the more intriguing guys on the UDFA list, I think. I want to know, and I think we will know probably right after this weekend, if Crum is just a camp arm or not, or if he's really got a shot to push Michelle or whoever else is going to be in camp. Henny is still there. Old Henny.
Well, and
he's
Gordon's
reliable.
Gordon will be gone if Crum is somebody that's more than a camp arm.
Yeah, that's kind of my thought as well.
I don't think they take 5 QBs to camp.
No, I think it's a waste of reps if you do.
Right. They usually only take 4, and that seems to be what they like to do. And yeah, you want Mahomes getting reps with all the 1s and 2s and getting chemistry with those guys, and I get that. But Chad Henne doesn't need a ton of reps. I mean, he needs enough to keep him where he is. Michelle's a guy that needs a ton of reps, and Crum is going to be a guy that needs a ton of reps too. So you don't want to have that other guy that could be there taking away those reps from those 2 young guys.
Yeah, absolutely. It's key.
And if Crum isn't on the roster, then that means, or if they release him before training camp, then that they think Gordon is better, and so be it. But Crum is actually one of the higher rated UDFAs, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, PFF had him, I think, 5th. 33rd team had him 1st, the best UDFA out there. I actually had him as, I think, 3. I did not have him on the draft board, but he was right below it. And a lot of that was because I just didn't see a lot of his film. I did see him play Wyoming, and I was really impressed with that. So I'm eager to see what they have there. I see that as a possibility for somebody that they could maybe bring along. And though you're never going to replace Patrick Mahomes, you might be worth trading a season or 2.
Well, yeah, and that's the thing with any QBs, and that's another reason, you go back to what Andy Reid has said in the past of, I'd like to draft a QB every year. And the thought process is you draft a QB every year because you think that you can get assets in the future if you don't already have that guy. Obviously, Kansas City has that guy. They're not replacing Patrick Mahomes.
Not a question.
Yeah, that isn't a question. So in this scenario, it's, can we trade him for a 3rd or 4th round pick or a 2nd round pick? Or, does he end up showing enough in 3 years? Maybe you get a 1st round pick for him. I'm not saying that that's going to happen in this scenario, but that's really their thought process.
Yeah, I'm with you. There's more to it, though. There's other things going around the league that we need to address too, because it has a flash way across for the Chiefs and their signees.
Yeah, and we will talk about those signings right after this, but I want to tell you about our friends over at Built Bar. The best part about Built Bars are they're very healthy and they are absolutely delicious. If you have not tried them yet, please order Built Bars. Try it. Just get a mixed box. Try a mixed box. I guarantee you'll like one of the flavors. If not, probably 5 or 6 of the flavors. All Built Bars are covered in 100% real chocolate. That means with Built Bar, you can eat healthy and actually enjoy doing it. They have over 12 different flavors of bars and puffs, so plenty to choose from, plenty to try. Most Built Bars contain 130 calories, 4 grams of sugar, 4 net carbs, and 17 grams of protein. Compare that to a candy bar, which usually has 240 calories, 30 grams of sugar, and dozens of net carbs. Go to Built.com to get all your favorites: banana cream pie, raspberry, double chocolate, and so many more. Go to Built.com, use promo code LOCK15, you'll get 15% off your order. Use promo code LOCK15 for 15% off at Built.com.
I'll get 15% off?
You'll get 15% off.
Oh, I'll take it.
Yeah, so will I. And I'll be ordering more. So when we started looking at what is going on in the NFL and how it's affecting Kansas City, you look at, it was reported on Thursday that the Green Bay Packers have already signed their 2 first-round draft picks.
Yeah. That's nice.
We're not even at rookie minicamp yet, and they've already signed their 2 first-round draft picks. That's fantastic, and I think that's going to be a continued thing going forward. I will be surprised if Kansas City doesn't have 2 or 3 guys, if not more, signed by this weekend, just because it's already a set process. It's already done. Like I've shown you at Chiefs Corner, the reason I'm able to get those numbers and over the cap helps with a lot of that, but the reason I'm able to get those numbers is because it's already pretty much set in stone. The numbers are what they are. It's already been, figured out. It's already been calculated. It's just a matter of maybe a little bit of language here and there, and that's really what they're going to be working on. And maybe, is the signing bonus paid over, the first year, or when do they get their installments of the signing bonus? That's all you really even talking about right now. The numbers are what they are.
Absolutely. It's a tough one. It makes things like you want to negotiate, you want to have that part of it, but it's really not built in there that way, is it? It is part of the structure of the league, really, at this point.
Yeah, and I'm glad it's the structure of the league, because then you get into a scenario where all these guys are signed by, maybe even the first week of OTAs for the most part. I mean, the last one that we saw that's drug out was Joey Bosa a couple of years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And that was mainly because of contract language and when he was going to get a signing bonus. So, I mean, it wasn't over the money. The money was already set. It's just a matter of, is it guaranteed? Maybe part of it's guaranteed, part of it's not. That may be something you can argue and negotiate about as well. But the numbers are set. So Kansas City knows what they're going to be paying these guys for the next 4 years. The only 2 guys that are going to be in line for a contract above those 4 years are Trent McDuffie and George Karlaftis, and those numbers are going to be something that you worry about after the 3rd year's completed. So,
right, and that's nice. That I'm glad that it worked out the way that it did in terms of the positional value, because those being 2 of the 4 pillars,
so huge.
It makes that difference, and maybe we'll get to this next week, like with the wide receiver group going so high so early, that makes them like the 5th pillar. And the Chiefs don't have that luxury this year. I think they could next year. I've already put out my top 16 right now, super early class of 2023. And there's a bunch of receivers in it again. There's also back to having quarterbacks in it, because that class looks normal again. But the Chiefs, after having filled all these holes, they could be in line after a couple of 1-year contracts for some of the receivers they have now. They could be in line to select more young rookie receivers in that draft.
And if they are, they're in a great spot. I think that's definitely something that you want to be checking to see how that's going to work out. I think that the thing that I'm curious about going forward is, I do agree with you. I absolutely agree with you. I think that it's one thing that they're going to be looking at when you start looking at positional value. That's a great way to put it. And I will tell you, just as an example, one of my articles that I just did on Chiefs Corner was talking about positional value and the draft pick of getting a guy like Joshua Williams in the 4th round.
Mm-hmm.
His total contract is less than $4.5 million for 4 years.
Yeah.
Total contract.
Yeah.
Now
Same as
you look
schemes,
at,
right? Snead was on the same level, same round. I know the numbers are a little bit different because they change year to year,
Right.
but it's in the same ballpark.
Right. And yeah, and so let's take a look at it really quick, and I'll let you know when we start looking at positional value, McDuffie's is 15.8 for the entire contract.
Man.
So a top corner, and please, I want to be clear when I say this. I am not saying Trent McDuffie is a top 20 corner in the NFL right now. That's not what I'm saying. But if he was a top 20 corner, you're going to be getting paid $15 to $20 million a year, somewhere in that range, probably. His entire contract is $16 million for 4 years.
Yeah.
Now,
that's a win.
If he's there in 6 years or in 5 years, that's a whole different ballgame, and that's something else you'll be looking at. But you're still going to be thinking that number is probably going to be lower than the top of the market. So it's probably going to be a great deal for the team at that point. And you're absolutely correct. I mean, you start looking at, you talk about Trent McDuffie, but you started this conversation with Sky Moore. Here's another number for you. His entire contract is less than $7 million. Now, I'm not saying he can replace Tyreek Hill, but his entire contract for 4 years is less than $7 million. Tyreek Hill is making $30 million a year.
This year.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now, and I will say this. You're getting more than a third of Tyreek's stats from Sky Moore this year.
Possibly. I think so too, but I think we got to see how it works out.
Well, that's true, but I still think he's going to get more than 500 yards. I don't think Tyreek's going to be over 500 yards or 1,500 yards.
Okay. Fair enough.
That's the way I'm looking at it. So for a third of the cost for the entire contract,
right?
Less than a third of the cost for the entire
contract. So really
contract.
A sixth of the overall cost. Yeah.
Right.
It's crazy.
Yeah. It's nuts. It's a great deal for the NFL, and it's the way it should be. And I know a lot of people can say, they're still not paid enough, whatever, or you could argue that, they're paid way too much. Whatever argument you want to have, you can make your argument. But I like the way it's set up for the NFL because now you know what these guys are going to cost you for the next several years. Kansas City's got another 10 draft picks next year. They're going to have the same type of situation next year that they have this year. They're going to have all these draft picks that they're going to be signing. And I think that they'll have I'm setting the over-under right now at 8.
Okay.
I'm betting that they only have 8 draft picks next year.
I'll
set it at 7.5. Sorry, I'll set it at 7.5, and I'll go over. But I think that they have 8.
I'm going to take the under because I can see a scenario right now that even if Sky Moore works out, depending on the age of everyone else that's on this roster, I can see the Chiefs Kingdom Twitter thread from February until the draft is going to be trade everything you have for JSN.
Mm-hmm.
For those of you who don't know, Jackson Smith Enigma is going to be the top wide receiver in this coming class. And
he's better. He's better than Olave and
yes,
Wilson.
Garrett Wilson.
Yeah, I couldn't remember the name for a second.
Oh, and that's what it's going to come down to. The screaming for JSN is going to be crazy. Even if the Chiefs get back to what we feel is like a more spread out attack where you remember those games when Mahomes was first starting, when we were there, he was throwing to like 11 receivers in the game.
Mm-hmm.
I foresee that this season, but they're going to have to add to that again. And let's see. They don't have 28 years old.
Yeah, they don't have a number one wide receiver right now, in my opinion.
Not yet. Corey Coleman's 21. Darius Fountain's 27. Josh Gordon's 31 years old. Other than McCole, everyone, and Sky Moore, obviously, everyone is 25 or older.
Yeah, but Juju's 25.
Yeah.
And I will say this. I'm not expecting Juju to be the number one guy going forward for Kansas City, but I think he has a skill set that could get him to be close to a number one guy in Kansas City with Patrick Mahomes.
Agreed. I could see Hardman, Juju, and Sky Moore being the huge additions that move the chains and rack up the yardage this year. And then maybe maybe you get to the point where you're like, okay, MVS is nice, but maybe we go out and we draft this phenom JSN kind of thing. It would take multiple draft picks to do it because I expect the Chiefs to finish with the number 32 pick next season. So it's going to be what it is.
And I did find it funny that it did come out that I think Clark Hunt actually did tell this to Brett Veach, you can't trade away your first-round pick next year.
Right.
But that doesn't mean they can't trade away their 2024 first-round pick.
Right. Or they have 2 2s next year. They have 2 3s next year.
Yeah. It's crazy. And they have, is it 2 4? 2 4s? I don't think they have 2 2s. Think, so a 4th and a 6th.
Oh, is it 4th and 6th? Okay. Okay. Yeah, so they have 2 3s and 2 4s. They can get something done.
2 6ths. Yeah. And so, yeah. And what is his initials? JSN? Is that what you said?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. He is probably, I would say, the reason Jameson Williams transferred from Ohio State.
Yeah.
To Alabama. So he's even better. Yeah. It's just
Jackson Smith and Jigba.
Yeah.
Enjoy that, you guys.
He's
Ohio
State.
Watch those games.
Monster. And that's the thing, though. And that's where I'm going. I still think what I'm saying is I think Juju has the ability to possibly be a very good number one. It's a question of whether or not they're able to utilize his skill set and get him there this year. I don't know. But if he has a monster year for Kansas City, he'll be back in Kansas City in 2023.
Yeah.
I don't have a doubt in that. And I would say, even if he plays to a level where you would say he could be your number one, I still think that they could be looking at it and saying, we still need to go draft somebody.
You could be right. And that's why I bring it up, because age is a factor with everybody else, but Juju, Hardman, and Sky Moore. And at the end of the day, if you've gotten enough done on defense where you need a player or two, if you put somebody explosive on top of Sky and Juju and possibly McColl coming back and MVS, it's lights out.
Yeah. And the roster pretty much will be the same going into 2023, offensively and defensively. I don't think they have that many free agents. They're set up on the offensive line. If they can get Kennard to be their starter right tackle, which I know some people don't know that he can be, and I know you question whether or not he can play that position and play it well. But if they can, they're set on offensive line for the next several years.
Yeah,
and
I like where Kennard's at. I like that he's got an edge, and I hear that he's lighter. Until we see him this weekend, I won't know. But I'm feeling optimistic that he can do it. I was actually pretty optimistic on him even after the Senior Bowl debacle, which seemed to be what soured most clubs on Kennard.
And thank you, NFL, for souring on him because of the Senior Bowl.
Yeah. It seemed like it. So,
yeah, I like that, and I like his attitude. But really the big thing is the only free agents you're really going to have that you need to be worrying about really are going to be Juan Thornhill maybe, and Frank Clark's going to be gone, so you're going to need another edge, which you're going to have to figure that out. But I would expect that you're going to be drafting an edge for probably the next 2 or 3 years at some point.
I think that they need to. I am absolutely with you.
So a lot of
watch LSU this year, folks. Watch
there
LSU.
You go. He's the guy that would know.
Just telling you.
I will say this, though. It's fun, and I'm sorry for the people that are giving me a hard time for saying that so much. It's fun to know that the QB class is going to be better next year, because I think that really killed a lot of players that should have probably been pushed down the board by QBs that weren't this year because the class just sucked.
Yeah. I think I have 5 in the first round. No, 5. I think I have 4 in the top 16 already. So that could improve. It could fall off as well, but there's also a number of edge rushers in there. Both guys, Ali Gay and BJ Ojulari from LSU, are going to be in there. Will Anderson's a pipe dream. He should be the number 1 overall selection. But that's what we said about Kayvon Thibodeau last year, too, so you never quite know.
Yep. It's going to be crazy, and we will have you covered here all year long, covering you with Chiefs knowledge and imparting our thoughts along the way. Be sure to check out Rogue APC. Be sure to check out Chiefs Corner. Ryan, I know that this is the time of year where it's time to take a little bit of a step back and kind of enjoy your weekend, but I'm actually looking forward to getting some information about these rookies.
I am too. And, if I thought that, I wouldn't have launched my brand new year-round draft and team building website, NFL33.com. So, yeah, I'm dumb. It's just the way that it goes. But, we're going to be doing some stuff. It's an exciting new year.
Thank you all for listening today, and we'll be back with you on Monday.